Something that I've been wanting to do for a very long time was compare my Vortex Viper to the Trijicon RMR. You know, the RMR kind of set the standard for everything, you know, being as rugged as it is. I do know that from friends of mine who I've spoken with in person have had issues with both. On the RMR, I've heard of people having issues in the rain with it shorting out. I've also heard of people having issues with battery connection, which is usually resolved with a little plate that goes up underneath it, which is why they're coming out with a Type 2 for the RMRs, because they're correcting those issues. With the Vortex Viper, the only issue I've really heard, you know, where it did something that it's not supposed to do, and I've actually kind of experienced it myself, is losing zero. We'll go up close and I'll show you everything about it. But basically, you know, I had this thing about 6 to 8 months. Now keep in mind, I had one of the very first batches that ever came out. So, you know, every time a new product's launched, it doesn't matter who makes it, there's usually gonna be some issues. So let's dive up close, talk about these. Let's see which one of these fits you best. So here we have the old faithful Vortex Viper. And the reason I say old faithful is because the first one I had, and honestly, I've had a great experience with it. I've had one issue that we'll talk about here in a second, but so far so good. And then we have the Trijicon RMR RM06. I just got this and I'm going to talk about it a little bit and we're going to do the comparison here. So let's start with the Vortex Viper. 6 MOA dot. I got it paired up with the AmeriGlows. I'll put links in the description, guys. I know everyone's been asking about these because they look like Trijicons, but they're not. They're AmeriGlows, but I'll put a link where you can pick them up. Running this right here, and I had my slide milled out to accept it. Now, right off the bat, one thing that I guess a little criticism is the buttons stick out. To me, I like it because when you're shooting, you can just reach up here and manipulate it. They're impact proof, they're fog proof, all that good stuff. Love them. The housing here is actually, it maybe not quite as robust as, say, the Trijicon RMR, but I haven't had any issues and I do use this to rack the slide all the time. Let's talk about the Trijicon RMR. This one is the 3.25 MOA version. Don't worry about the size on the camera. You can never get these right. But it's the 3.25 MOA, and then they also got the 6.5 MOA. Got the adjustable LED, it's got the minus side on this side, the plus sign on this side, it's got 1 minute of angle adjustments. I don't remember what the adjustment is on this, but I do believe it's 1 MOA as well. As far as getting them zeroed, the Trijicon's gonna be easier. All you gotta do is put a flat head in and turn them, and they click into place. Whereas on the Vortex Viper, you got these set screws that are behind this rear sight. Hang on, I was playing with my sight. It's behind this rear sight here. And so you got some set screws back there that you have to loosen before you can adjust the windage and elevation, which some people find to be a hassle. Now, how the heck do you get this thing zeroed? Well, the way I do it is I installed this with the set screws loosened. Then I turn the adjustment knobs, get it slaved to the front sight. Then I take this off, tighten down the rear set screws, put it back on, make sure it's sitting where I want to, then I go to the range and confirm it. That's how I do it. It's kind of a little bit of a pain, but I will say this. In the past, I've zeroed this, got it set, and I've taken it off, put it on my Glock 26, taken it off that, put it on here, and the zero always stayed the same. So far, it's worked really nicely for me. The one downside I did have was with my previous Vortex Viper. The set screws quit working, and I did lose zero. Sent it back to them. They had me another one in a couple of days, and I've had this one now for about 3 or 4 months and had no issues. Let's talk about the Trijicon RMR. This one's kind of set the stage for everything. Now, we all know that Trijicon obviously has a very rugged miniature red dot. That's what RMR means, ruggedized miniature red dot. Sits a little bit lower. It's a little bit smaller than the Vortex Viper. As you can see there, just a tiny bit smaller. Height-wise, the Vortex is a little bit bigger, but I love the bigger window. So if you look through the RMR, you see how small the window is compared to the Vortex. I actually prefer the bigger window of this, but I prefer the adjustment settings of this. Now, they both take the same size battery, and this one's known to last 4 years on a battery charge. However, these have had their own issues as well, as far as shorting out in rain, as well as the battery terminal shaking it around after you put a lot of rounds through it. This one on average is anywhere from $500 to $650 depending on where you get it. I was actually able to pick it up on sale for $350. I don't know if they're still on sale, but I'll put a link in the description where I got it. And if they are, you can go get you one. It was on sale for $350. That's the only reason I bought that. But overall, they're both just as accurate as one another. It just kind of comes down to what you want in a red dot. You know, I carry with the Vortex Viper. I always have, and I've had no issues carrying with it. But on the other hand, a lot of people only want what the military has. So, I mean, honestly, I get about the same groupings with both. They both work great. Like I said, I had a personal issue with this. My buddy who has one of these had an issue with it getting wet and shorting out. So they both have their pros and cons. It just depends on what's your budget, and do you want to go with Trijicon or do you want to go with something like Vortex Viper? You know, obviously guys, I'm not a brand whore. I'm really not. I'm all about quality. If a company makes a product for cheaper, but it's superior, I'm going to go with that one. You know, sometimes in marketing, a lot of people associate price with quality. Now, Trijicon, obviously, they got a military contract. Well, some people have the notion of thinking, well, if it's good enough for the US military, it's good enough for me. However, as a businessman, I know that governments are cheap. You know, I'm not pointing any fingers. I'm not saying Trijicons are cheap. I just know that governments are cheap and they want the best bang for the buck that works. Let's talk about it. The Trijicon RMR. Yeah, they're great. The two biggest pros to this one is the battery life and the way you zero it. You know, obviously you can zero this on the fly with a flathead screwdriver, and that is beautiful. I do love that. The next pro is the battery life. You know, typically I think they say they last 3 or 4 years. That is a great thing in of itself. I love that. Let's talk about the pros of the Vortex Viper. This is probably the highest quality, affordable pistol red dot that you can buy. I like it better than the Venom because the Venom is thicker right here. And if you put irons behind it, you won't really be able to co-witness. I'm not even gonna talk about the Burris Fastfire 3. Those are shit. I just had a couple friends with them and they all hate them. Now the Shield Sights RMS, I haven't had a chance to get my hands on them. I've sent the company emails and then they were like, hey, we'll look into that. And then I never heard anything back. So I don't know anything about those aside from what is on the internet right now. So I'll try to get some of those in the future. But the Vortex Viper, the pros about it is right now, I think they're less than $200, which is amazing. I like how the up and down button are both on the same side. And it's just muscle memory, you know, down is the one closest to you. I love the window. The window is a lot larger than the RMR. And the glass on the RMR has a green tint to it, where this one is more true to natural colors. That part I love. Downsides to the Vortex Viper, well, one, you kind of have to take it off to undo your set screws to zero it. Now, with that said, aside from the issue that I had where the set screws stopped working, it didn't matter if I took this optic off and put it right back on, it always held zero. Every single time. And guys, you know, I play with guns a lot because I have to take stuff off, test out different holsters, yada, yada. This thing never lost zero until those set screws went out. And from what I understand, they've upgraded the set screws since July of last year when I got this. So shouldn't be any issues there. The other downside is the battery life. You know, the longest I've gotten out of this is about 4 months on the highest setting. Now, with the battery that's included with it, I don't know what kind of battery it is. I think it's a no name. Don't use that. Go get yourself a Duracell or an Energizer. One of them high-end lithium batteries, you will see a big difference. Because on the battery that come with this the very first time, 2 or 3 months, I can't remember. It was like 2 or 3 months I got out of this. And then when you put the Energizer or the Duracells, I've gotten 6 months out of these. So, kind of begs the question, you know, are you the kind of person that can remember to change your batteries? It doesn't really bother me that I have to change the battery so often, just because even though there's a red dot on the gun, I always train with the irons. The dot just helps out a lot. So whenever I present, I find the front dot. That's what I do. Then the red dot appears, and then boom, I take my shot. So I look at this as a secondary sight, not a primary. The irons are primary in my opinion. So if you train like that, when you go to put it out, you're firing regardless if the dot's there or not because you can see that front sight. So that's not a big con in my book. However, the zeroing thing kind of is. But if you really want to like be able to adjust this on the fly, send your rear sight to primary machine, or they might have some available for sale. I'll put a link in the description. I'm not affiliated with them, never even given me anything. But what they will do is they will drill out 2 holes in the back of this, but they'll drill out these rear holes so that you can, access the set screws on the fly. And what's cool about it is the flathead that undoes the set screws also does the zeroing. So it's up to you guys. $600 for set it and forget it with the possibility of water shorting it out, or less than $200, zeroing it once, it's kind of a hassle, and then changing your batteries every 4 to 6 months. That's up to you guys, but I'll put some affiliate links down in the description below so that you guys can do the compare and contrast. Put your questions down below, guys. Let me know if there's anything else I can do for you guys, and I'll try my best to make that happen. But until next time, I love you. You guys be sexy.